Here are 4 things INTJs do that confuse everyone. Number 1. INTJs correct you, even when no one asked. INTJs have an unusual habit of correcting people mid-conversation, even when no one asked. To most, this comes off as unnecessary or even rude. But for the INTJ, it's not about showing off or undermining anyone, it's about preserving accuracy. Their minds are wired to scan for inconsistencies, false assumptions, or vague language. And the moment they spot one, a quiet internal alarm goes off. It doesn't matter if you're in the middle of a joke or a heartfelt story. If you say something that doesn't line up logically or factually, the INTJ is likely to step in and clarify. And they'll do it bluntly, often without realizing that it disrupts the emotional rhythm of the moment. It's not because they're insensitive. It's because they're more tuned into the content of what's being said than the tone it's being delivered in. For the INTJ, precision in language is a reflection of precision in thought. And to let something imprecise go uncorrected feels like allowing a crack to form in the foundation of truth. Even in small talk, their mind is engaged in a kind of mental quality control. They're not trying to win the conversation, they're trying to protect it from drifting into error. What confuses people is the intensity behind this. The way a seemingly trivial detail suddenly becomes worth interrupting a moment for. But that's just how INTJs function. Their relationship with truth is absolute, not flexible. They believe that if something's worth saying, it's worth saying correctly. To many, that can feel jarring or overly critical, but to the INTJ, it's a quiet form of respect, a signal that the conversation itself is important enough to be accurate. The irony is they rarely correct people to feel superior. They do it because they expect others to value truth the way they do. And when that expectation isn't met, they feel a responsibility to course correct. Not out of ego, but out of principle. It's not about being right for the sake of pride. It's about being right for the sake of order. And once you understand that, what first seemed cold begins to look like conviction. If you're willing to delve even deeper into your personality type, we're excited to announce the release of our insightful books. In the first one, you can explore the nuanced dynamics of INTJ relationships and uncover strategies to foster deeper connections based on understanding and compatibility. In the second, you can gain clarity on navigating the intricate terrain of career choices with a guide tailored specifically for INTJs, offering actionable advice to leverage their unique strengths effectively, and finally choose the best career path. As a special offer for our subscribers, we have a promo code available for your purchase. Link is in the description below. Number 2. They seem emotionless, but they're not. INTJs are often perceived as emotionless, cold, or detached, and it's easy to see why. Their faces rarely reveal much. Their tone stays neutral, even in intense situations, and their reactions can seem calculated rather than spontaneous. But underneath that calm surface is a rich emotional world that few people ever get to see. The reason INTJs seem emotionally distant isn't because they lack feelings, it's because they process those feelings internally, privately, and slowly. Their emotional reactions are rarely on display, not because they aren't real, but because they prefer to examine them quietly, dissect them logically, and only act on them when they're sure those feelings are valid. And rooted in something deeper than impulse. They don't wear their hearts on their sleeves. They carry them like blueprints, carefully folded, structured, and guarded. To the outside world, that creates a disconnect. People expect warmth to look a certain way. Smiles, enthusiasm, verbal affirmations. INTJs don't always offer those things, but that doesn't mean they're indifferent. Quite the opposite. Their emotions run deep, often deeper than they're comfortable admitting. But expression to them is something that must be measured, not spilled. They value emotional control, not emotional denial. What confuses people is that the INTJ can care deeply about someone and still seem completely unaffected in their presence. They might not say, "I miss you," but they'll remember something you said in passing 6 months ago. They won't make dramatic declarations, but they'll solve a problem you didn't even know they noticed. Their love, loyalty, and concern often show up in actions, not words. In strategic support, silent protection, and long-term commitment. They're the ones who will help you fix your life while barely making eye contact. They might look like they're made of stone, but the truth is, they're just wired to protect their emotional core. Not out of fear, but out of discernment. They don't trust easily, and they don't express casually. But when they do let someone in, it's deliberate, intense, and lasting. They don't love often, but when they do, it's with a sense of gravity that few other types can match. What appears as emotional distance is often emotional depth filtered through restraint. Number 3, they disappear into projects and forget you exist. INTJs have a habit of vanishing. One day they're present, texting back, joining conversations, showing signs of life. And the next, it's radio silence. No explanation, no drama. They just disappear. Not out of spite or avoidance, but because something has captured their mind. And once that happens, the outside world becomes background noise. When an INTJ locks onto a project, idea, or mission, their focus narrows with almost surgical precision. They don't multitask emotionally. They go all in, mentally and physically. And when they're in that state, it's like everything else fades away, including you. To people who don't understand this, it feels personal. It feels like rejection, but it's not. The INTJ isn't trying to ignore anyone. They're simply immersed in a mode of functioning where productivity becomes their version of connection. Where solving a problem or building something from scratch is more real than small talk or hanging out. This intense focus isn't something they choose casually. It's how their mind naturally operates. Their dominant introverted intuition locks onto a vision, and their extroverted thinking starts building the scaffolding to make it real. During that process, social obligations, emotional check-ins, even meals, they all take a back seat. It's not that they don't care. It's that their mind doesn't allow divided attention when it's chasing clarity. To them, deep work is sacred. And interruptions, even well-meaning ones, feel like static interfering with a clear signal. What's confusing is how seamlessly they drop off the grid and how little guilt they seem to feel about it. But the truth is, INTJs often assume that others value independence the same way they do. They believe that if someone truly understands them, they'll know that silence doesn't equal absence, and distance doesn't mean detachment. The INTJ isn't ghosting you, they're constructing something. And once it's built, they'll return, often with something remarkable to show for it. But the process demands solitude. Their mind needs space to breathe, to map, to create. And in those stretches of silence, they're not withdrawing from the world. They're rebuilding their inner architecture, piece by piece, until it all makes sense again. Number 4, they plan for years but act like it's casual. INTJs have a way of making their moves look effortless, but what people don't see is the sheer amount of long-term planning happening behind the scenes. While everyone else is reacting to what's in front of them, the INTJ has already mapped out 5, 10, even 20 steps ahead. They're strategic by nature, and their minds are always running simulations. If this, then that. If that, then this. They don't just make decisions, they architect outcomes. But what confuses people is how casual they seem when it all unfolds. There's no big announcement, no bragging, no visible stress. One day the INTJ just shifts direction, nails a goal, or pivots into something new, and it looks spontaneous. It's not. It's been in the works for months, maybe years. They've already visualized the entire path, anticipated the risks, accounted for the contingencies, and stripped away anything unnecessary. So, when they act cleanly, quietly, and with zero wasted motion. The calm execution fools people into thinking the plan was born yesterday, when in reality, it's the final phase of a strategy they've been refining in silence. INTJs don't overshare their process. because to them, the process is sacred. It's internal. The vision is theirs to protect until it's ready to be real. Talking about it too soon risks dilution, distraction, or outside interference. And INTJs don't tolerate interference. They're comfortable being the only one who knows what's coming. And when it finally happens, they'd rather let the results speak for themselves than explain how they got there. It's not modesty, it's efficiency. They're not in it for the applause. They're in it for the execution. What others see as a sudden success is usually the final move in a long calculated game. And what confuses people most is how unbothered they seem by the timeline. INTJs are patient. They'd rather spend 5 years building something solid than 5 months chasing something shallow. They don't rush, and they don't broadcast. They just quietly move forward, always with the next outcome already taking shape in the background of their mind. These videos will be really helpful for you.